Bonjour tout le monde, merci de vous être levé tôt ce matin pour assister à cette session plénière. Je ne vais pas parler longtemps en français parce que c'est une session internationale. So it's a real pleasure to have Stefan this morning for this plenary session. When preparing this session, it sent me CV, and this CV is so long, but of course it was hard to extract a few relevant information for this introduction, so there on this session. So, Stefan works as a professor at the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology, graduated from Karlsruhe University, where he stayed for a certain time, and then to Saarbrücken University, and now Technical University of Karlsruhe. You probably knew him as an editor of computers and operations research. He served for many years in this journal, and now he's editor of operations research for healthcare. So as you can see, he works a lot in operations research, of course. He's a specialist of facility locations, supply chains, and many other topics. So he covers a very broad scope of research. And today, he also served as the president of the German Foreign Society, and he is vice president of the Euro in charge of the relationship with the IFORS. He has been the organizer of many conferences, including one IFORS conferences, and maybe we can talk a little bit about it. He will be among the organizers of the next German Foreign Society conference. So I think this is quite interesting to have him today to make a parallel with what it actually is and discuss about it. So today the presentation is called The Day After Optimal. And as we all know today, the present time are very uncertain, and of course the future time are even more uncertain, and making good decisions is difficult. And even when we think that we have optimal solutions, maybe this is not the end of the story, and this is the story that Stefan will tell us this morning. So welcome again, and this will be a pleasure to listen to you.
Ok, thank you, merci. Je pensais de présenter en français, mais il n'y a pas suffisamment de mots dans mon vocabulaire dans l'école. I switched to English, so it's frustrating. It's already early in the morning, and then you have to listen to a German stamping in French. The only thing which would be worse perhaps in German, maybe. Okay, so good morning, everybody. So I hope you. It was early to get up, and I tried to entertain you here a little bit now. Usually I move a lot in presentations, but there's a camera, so I'm trying not to move too much. Can you move the camera for us? No. No. Yes? Okay, so I move. Okay. Yeah. What is the idea of today's presentation? So it's called The Day After Optimal, and of course, when I present things like that, of course the idea is always I want to give you big messages, and usually it fails. There are too many slides, too many details, and you miss the story. So I will tell you what I intend in the beginning, and then at the end we can check if I at least partially succeeded in doing that. So the first thing I want to show you is quickly to show you where I come from, so which university, so that you see a little bit background of the university. Then I would like to show you in principle that finding optimal solutions is not totally clear what we mean in many contexts, and operations research means modeling real-world operations and solve them mathematically, which is in times of artificial intelligence, machine learning, very important. What we do is all quantify the world. And the third thing I'm trying to do is I give you an example maybe of an application field or of a modeling technique which you are not so comfortable with yet, or which is not seen too much in journals, and show you how this can be used to have alternative optimality concepts, and then probably we are already over time, and let's see. Okay. So, sorry, focus is wrong here. So No, I did. Okay. You see, at one point, by the way, also if you want to have a good startup, what would really be good is to have some middleware for PowerPoint to generate presentations. Check in the internet, there's nearly nothing. Yeah, the problem with PowerPoint is you have huge presentations, and then it's difficult for a more technical audience, for a more overview thing, how to assemble the slides and how to follow the red lines. While you are left some slides, you say, oh, you don't skip this one or whatever. What I tried as in between is we have an interactive presentation. So in principle, you could tell me, I don't want to hear anything about this, and then we go to something else. And just to show you here, so I will first tell you a little bit about my research group. Then we talk about what is optimal supply chain planning logistics. We will skip this one, and then we will go for optimization under uncertainty, look in online optimization, and if I'm really good in time, we'll look about learning of data-driven online decision rules and do conclusions. There are also other versions of these talks, so I could talk also for 4 hours, and I give you different paths to that. So maybe it's one way at least to make PowerPoint a little more interactive. So in principle, we could have voting. Yeah, if you don't like one of the topics, you want to raise up and switch to the next one. We should maybe frustrate them. Okay. Just a few minutes on KIT. It's one of the German universities. It says it's the largest on one side university, and has around 1 billion of budget per year now. And of course, it's not my research, which is big. They are doing things like astronomy and all these basic research things. Energy, and so they need a lot of money, it looks like. They have always these research programs which are 100 million, 300 million, so I don't do this. The nice thing, since 1.5 years now, we are again one of the 11 excellence universities in Germany, so we have always some competition. And of course, usually the members are what our competitors, the 2 Munich universities, typically one in Berlin, because that's the capital. This is recorded, actually. Okay. So Aachen is very good, yeah, then Heidelberg for medicine. So there are like 11 of these, yeah, and at least Karlsruhe is one of them, which is really nice. So here you can see a little bit the topics. We did once, of course, everyone is doing strategic plans, yeah? And the KIT was formed, by the way, from the former University of Karlsruhe and the very former Atomic Research Center in Karlsruhe, and this joint venture, this is called KIT. And then the idea behind it is the former Atomic Research Center was funded, it's a federal state institution, and universities are local state institutions. So one is German owned, the other is Baden-Württemberg owned, and this together was something totally new because finances were rather complicated, maybe also in France. And so the idea was to provide everything from basic research to large-scale research, like we need in energy or climate. And the topics of KIT are these 5 more or less. It's climate, materials, energy, information, and mobility. And of course, OI is here somehow a little bit here. We have one of the 7 regions for autonomous driving testing in Germany. So we have in one of the groups I'm involved in, we are building autonomous driving cars, and we are allowed now by changes in the law regulation to test them close to Karlsruhe on regular speeds. And yeah, that's something, I don't know. So just that you see a little bit what happens here, and we have like, I don't know, 25,000 students, maybe at the moment 22, I don't know. I don't know how many full professors, 300-400. And in total 10,000 employees, so it's a relatively big institution. And the nice thing is also it's also close to France. This is why I tell it to you. I mean, we have a lot of exchange with Strasbourg, of course. There's also some exchange with Metz. But there could be, of course, more. So, just about my research group. So, how do you do research in Germany? Just before I explain, so that you take it a little bit serious. I don't know what I'm now explaining. You see, here we have my normal university group. This is where we do all the teaching. This is like 7-8 people only. So me coordinating, the others working. This institution here, this is to bring technology into companies. This is the institution SZI, Research Center for Information Technology. This is legally independent of the university, which is quite important. And it's smaller. It's around 200 employees with some colleagues from PIT and some from other universities. And this is mainly financed through either European projects or through direct contracts with companies. And here, for example, I worked since 12 years with Lufthansa Cargo, or we work with Bosch. We work with, I don't know, SAP, with BMW, and local companies and help them. And the last institution here, this is probably also very interesting, is this is the other way around. This is to stimulate industry on campus. This is some joint venture, KSI, Karlsruhe Service Research Institute, which was funded in 2008 between IBM and KIT. And I'm one of the directors of this institute. And this was funded to attract industrial companies to have research groups on the campus and pay for the infrastructure. So instead of going out as academicians to industry people and try to explain the world, which would sometimes be not clever, let the people from industry come for a while to the university, understand what research is at the moment, maybe understand new direction, and then write together research proposals. And this seems to work quite well. So we have, for example, Bosch has a research group here, and there's also something which is called SEW Europe. I probably don't know that. It's a company building electric motors. But they have a turnover per year of 13 billion at the moment. So they are nearly, I would say, 60% of the world market of all electric engines used in logistics through this company. And then they have some people at the university, and this stimulates research quite nicely. Yeah. And just to help people contact us, we have something which is called the supply chain lab and also a healthcare lab, which helps a little bit to say, okay, if I want to do something in supply chain, and there are two other colleagues of mine working in the supply chain lab, then they don't want to figure out which professor might be able to do it. Yeah? And then it's a little bit also, if you contact someone at university, it's a little bit like if you contact some salesperson in a software company. Yeah, I know everything. So it's very hard to share the information, and for people from the outside, it's good to have a single point of contact. Okay. Just that you see a little bit, and all this construction together, this is my research group. What we are doing is, I'll do it quickly because you don't have to study it in detail. And also, in any case, this is recorded, so you can review it. And also, if you need it, I can provide you the slides afterwards. Yeah? So it's just a little bit, you see what we do in my group is, from production, you will see a little bit about that. Supply chain analytics, we work also on next generation logistics, so a new concept. What does the impact be on the algorithms? For example, there are a lot of people building drones, and at the same time, they publish algorithms for the orienteering problem with drones. But if you are good in building drones, maybe you are not good in algorithms for routing. Yeah? At least not necessarily, and it turns out it's true. It's good that people share their competences. And of course, as Olivier said, I'm doing a lot of things in healthcare, which we also call healthcare logistics often. And of course, we do a little bit also transportation. This is a little bit me and my group, so the responsible persons. This is the ones I have to pay for Christmas dinner. So, and or whatever, end of the year dinner, or at least the last 2 years it was cheap. There's always, you see, there's always good elements. Okay, sorry. Yeah, and of course, what you have to do is, of course, if you want to work applied on a certain level, of course, we were drawing sometimes a little bit, okay, what you need is a lot of methods in the end. You can also not say, I don't think artificial intelligence is very good, I'm operations research guy or whatever. You have to learn, yeah. And you need the tools to implement it, otherwise it stays relatively difficult. And what I also had to learn, at least in some domains, you should have knowledge to talk to people, to convince them that this is not just some abstract mathematical whatever thing. You have to be able to talk to them in their vocabulary. And just to finish that off, this is a list of some of the companies we are working with at the moment. So, okay. And you see now the nice thing is, you see with the presentation here and the button back, and we are back in the. So if I would have taken too long, I could say now it's the end. This would be very disturbing for you, maybe. Yeah, then you would have said I would have stayed in there, and you would be right. Okay. Good. So let's switch from these backgrounds, and maybe for me it's always interesting to see a little bit how other universities do the research, or how does that work. Now to the topic. Here's a slide which I would also show in a lecture to motivate OR. And let's see. So what do we have to do? So I mix always the terms like logistics, supply chain planning. I mean, it's always not clear what is the end of one and what is the beginning of the other. I have colleagues in production who say always production is not logistics, but I say often a lot of production is only logistics, and only little part is technology in production. I mean, it's hard to discuss that. So I'm always, if I talk about logistics or supply chain planning, I mean always the logistical part, not so much the I would say the engineering part, where it's also difficult, where is engineering stopping and where is, so it's, maybe we shouldn't go into that discussion either. Okay, but so let's assume this would be a slide you are presented by someone, what is optimal supply chain planning, and you say, okay, what is the goal? In principle, the goal is to make the customer happy, but as cheap as possible. Yeah? So this is the simple version of it. So we have to allocate resources over a network of related locations with the goal to satisfy customer requirements. What do we use? We have OR models, we have nice mathematical tools, proven optimality, whatever. And the optimality describes the property of the solution which imposes the best feasible decision obtained under specific conditions and requirements. Yeah, this is what we all learn in courses. And this is nice, because we know how to do it optimal, right? And the question is it really that simple? Yeah, this looks nice in the lecture, but maybe it's not true. And why is it not true? Just to give you some indications here. First of all, I know a lot of companies which talk to me that we would like to have optimal supply chain. And I said, what? They said, okay, we want to minimize our cost. I said, close the company. Yeah, so cost zero, optimal solution. I mean, you can even check it. Yeah, you never find a better solution than zero cost, right? Yeah. So they said, no, this is not what we mean. And then you start discussing, what do you mean? Yeah. So the question is, what is my criteria for optimality? And do I want to be now optimal, or do I like to restructure and invest to have a better or cost-effective supply chain in a few years? And this is not clear. I mean, this is for many companies, and even for the ones who start projects, not clear. Also, like if you have supply chain planning or in general a logistics system which are changing, it's a long-lasting decision. And then the question is also, when should my decisions be optimal and for what time? It's very strange that people said, okay, last year we optimized our supply chain. What is clear is the supply chain is changing, the demands are changing, the cost factors are changing, the political environment, as we can see now, is permanently changing. What does it mean? Is it good to have it optimal. Yeah. So this is the bad joke. What is better, a clock on the wall which is broken, or one which is always 1 minute ahead? And of course, mathematically, you would say the broken one, because it always shows once per day the exact time. Yeah? The other never. Yeah? But of course, you would not go for this optimality concept. Yeah, you want the clock which goes 1 minute ahead, because then you are still closer to an estimate of what you really want. Yeah. And the worst is the data. Yeah. So also that a lot of companies want optimal supply chains, but they cannot measure, they don't even know the cost structure, the forecast you don't have. Yeah. So how can my decisions be optimal if I don't know the future? I mean, this is maybe sounds stupid, yeah, but this is a very important question. Yeah. It changes my concept of what I could call optimal if I don't know. Yeah. So and that's a little bit. Maybe this motivates you a little bit to think about it and look how it's done at the moment in practice. What we have is in all these enterprise planning systems, so-called advanced planning systems. There is one from SAP, from Oracle, Stefan, whatever. And the planning always works in the same way. What we have is, we have a past, and from the past, we try to figure out what could happen in the future. And what is very important, we have a timeline always running with us. We have a moment in time until decisions are made, and the future where we can still go on. And a topic I will come back in some minutes is the current industrial planning is a pure forecast-based planning. So if you look in APS systems, you have some forecasting modules. This might be enhanced with a lot of tricks. You have a rolling time horizon, and what you do is you solve snapshot problems. You always solve, forecast again, and try to resolve. The problem is, if we look at all the progress in IoT or Internet of Things and such, you have real-time data. And what is really interesting is, if you look in industry practice, you have a planned deliveries. Let's look for daily delivery of trucks in production. And you have the measuring in the very moment with online sensors and everything. And very often they don't fit. And there's no plan how to make it fit again. So what happens in many companies I know is, you have the tactical plan, which is full of people, experts in OR or not, but they are doing algorithms or using them. Then they do a plan, and the people at the plan see that the plan doesn't fit. But since there's no tools for adjusting these two plans, they usually ignore the tactical plan. They say these people from the offices, they don't know the reality, and we know what to do, and they do something completely different. And in the end, this is also not perfect, because maybe they are also not perfect. No one is perfect, yeah. But in the end, they say the tactical plan was wrong. But there was never a check, and there's no concept yet to unify that. And I don't know if you experienced that, but this is really one very basic and very fundamental problem in logistics at the moment. If you look, what is the data in current industrial planning systems? What we have is, of course, what we are used to do is, we know from the demand data always the orders and forecasts on the orders. This is very much known. The problem is also on the model and on the transactional data, we have known data and uncertain data. And what is really one of the biggest problems in all planning systems is that the uncertainty, the information about uncertain data is not handed over to the algorithms. And usually an algorithm running in such a system doesn't know if the data comes from a forecast or from deterministic values, or from which forecasting method, or from just some rule of thumb. And this would make a difference. Yeah, if you know my data is not reliable, and I solve a problem, and I see, oh, if I change a little bit the data, I would get a completely different solution. I would use it different, and if I don't know, I can be sure that this data is reliable. So what I will be in more detail in a second is, we have several aspects of optimality. One very important question is, what is the right time frame? So for which time frame can I optimize? Or can I try to find something good? In production, it's easy. Yeah, we have a daily production, probably during daytime it should work. If I redesign the supply chain, then maybe I have to say the next 5 years I should be like whatever. Yeah. Then the question is also, what is the right degree of uncertain consideration? We will talk about that in more detail. And we need the right objective function. So how do I measure exactly? Yeah? Well, what is optimal? Yeah? And this leads to that we have to do something. Okay. One additional thing we are going to talk about in a second is, I believe, or the research we did would suggest there are two types of future. There's sometimes a certain nearby future and the farther really uncertain future. So for example, if I would say, I walk here to the door and take something and walk back here, this is something like a certain future. Because if I cannot rely on that, I can do that in 7.5 seconds or something like that, then maybe the wall comes down or whatever, but this is something I haven't modeled, so I cannot take care of. If I would say, okay, in 3 weeks I get enough of my supply, then this is a completely different future. And so you have to be careful which kind of future you are modeling and which uncertainty concept you have. So the first thing I would like to show you is, and these are now some snapshots on the work we are doing currently. One is a review which we started because we figured out that there are some strange things, or not strange things. Researchers should do the following. We should always separate the method from the model. So we have whatever, a problem to solve, we model it, and then we have a solution algorithm for it. And if you look in models on uncertainty, it's very interesting that this separation doesn't take really place. And we were looking at that, and we did some systematic review, which I will just show you quickly before we go to online optimization, but I would like to spend 7-8 minutes on this. And what we looked at is what effect does uncertainty have on mathematical programs? What solution methods do we have? Can we include time and uncertainty at the same time? By the way, this is also something I just mentioned, but uncertainty and time is extremely related. If you don't have time, you don't have uncertainty. So if everything happens at once and time wouldn't exist, why would you have uncertainty exactly? Yeah? Uncertainty always means there is some dynamic change, and I don't know, I don't want to be philosophical, but you need the time to get this uncertainty in some sense. And I want to show you quickly what flaws exist, and there's a paper on it, and you can read it in more detail. Okay. Just to start with, if we have uncertainty, optimality and feasibility are no longer really well defined. Okay. For example, here, this is the case just in linear programming. Yeah, you have some uncertain objective. Now, what do you do? Yeah, but when is a point called optimal? Yeah? Which of the two do you take? If you don't have not more information, then it could be this one or this one. Do you take now the optimal solution and average of it, or do you take the, I don't know, yeah? So at least it's not clear. And of course the uncertainty can also be in the constraints. And now what is feasible or not? Maybe you have an optimal solution which becomes unfeasible, or maybe if you are too conservative, you are missing some opportunities. Yeah? Over the time, a lot of things have evolved. You can see stochastic programming is one of the oldest paradigms, because it's very intuitive how to approach a problem. Yeah? Stochastic programming is more or less nothing else than what humans like to do is, if they have a lot of different data which could happen with some uncertainty, you take the average value. Yeah, this is the typical thing. So if you drive from city A to B several times, and sometimes it takes 1 hour, sometimes 2 hours, sometimes whatever, you take the average and say, so in average it takes this. The problem is this average never takes place often, yeah? And stochastic programming is taking the average afterwards. So you solve the problem for all all cases, and afterwards you take the expected value. The next step is robust optimization, where you try to hedge against the effects of uncertainty. Then there's something we will talk about in a minute, online optimization. Then we have stochastic dynamic programming, which also helps you. And here, very new, robust dynamic programming, which combines a little bit these two things. And of course also combined methods. What you can see is there are a lot of different principles around. And if you try to figure out, here I have a problem, which of the methods should I use? You are really lost. Yeah? And just to show you, yeah, here's a little bit. So these are the 3 ones I'm focusing now on. We have stochastic programming. I explained already this. Yeah, so we optimize the expected objective value. Robust optimization optimizes the worst case objective value. And online optimization, which I like to be a little bit more in detail on in the next minute, provides answers to current requests, which hopefully contribute to the overall objective. This is a different concept, and let me see here. I didn't want to go into much details, but then it's also difficult if you don't explain it here. So it's, yeah, whatever. So what works always is that we can always use the time dimension to model things in a multi-period version. Yeah, so then you have multiple periods to solve problems, and in an online optimization problem, you just solve it now, and you see what's happening next. Yeah, there's something which is called a look ahead, which we will explain in a second. Robust optimization looks at the overall worst case and has uncertainty sets, and stochastic programming looks at the overall average case and needs probability distributions, or at least if not, then you assume that you have unique distribution. What happens is, if you do something over time, of course, you see that you always have like some observation and then you do a decision. Yeah, this is very typical and the same to all of these problems, but they handle it differently. Online optimization adapts, which we will see in a moment. Stochastic programming checks, this is the recurse function, yeah, and robust optimization then tries to get rid of the worst case scenarios. So you see a little bit, this is a little bit like a map on all these methods which are here. And what is really interesting is, and I don't want to go in detail on these methods, what I wanted to show you is, we have different models of uncertainty, and this you can read in the paper, or you can have the slides or whatever. This was just a lot of work to classify that, but what I wanted to show you is just, if you use different methods, you need different models of uncertainty. You need sometimes a distribution function, sometimes only interval where exists. So like sometimes you don't need more than a state space and so on. But you also get totally different solutions. So if you have the different concepts, at some point you get the expected value, otherwise you get like a maximum out of the worst case. Here you get another expected value but of a different function, and so on. So we have a total heterogeneity of input data requirements and solution information of different methodologies. So it's nearly impossible. We tried it once. Is it better to do a robust approach or a stochastic programming approach or whatever? Yeah? You can even not compare the outcomes because you need different input data, get different output data, and everyone who would do empirical analysis would say it's impossible. Yeah? But it's getting worse. Yeah, because in some areas you only do certain methods. For example, here supply chain production inventory, you find these tools here. Energy, electrical power, you find something else, yeah. And finance investment, you don't do robust optimization, whatever, yeah. So this is just an observation of the papers published, yeah. But it's very interesting. Why is no one checking? Because usually what you would have to do as operation researcher is take a problem, take the input data and find the right method, or match the data to the method. I would say this is what we have to do, and it's nearly impossible here. So results are obtained for a specific combination of uncertainty model and solution methodology, and we cannot compare. Yeah, so it's really nearly impossible. And what is really, for me, interesting is just to pick these three. What is the performance measure? For example, a stochastic program, you would always, if you want to get a paper published, you talk about the value of the stochastic solution. Yeah, so it's a positive thing. In robust optimization, you pay the price of robustness. So it looks like it's really bad if you do it, yeah? Because here it's good, value, price. Yeah? In online optimization, it's also worst case analysis, competitiveness ratio. And here what we evaluate here, you evaluate here the stochastic information, here in both cases the algorithm quality. Yeah, it's this worst case bound type of thing. So it's really interesting if you look at that. And we wrote that up here in a paper from 2020 in Omega. So what I'm just telling you, even we are not looking at applications really. Yeah, we are just looking at the papers published. And from the analysis, you cannot say what is the right concept. You cannot say in this situation you would have to do stochastic programming. Yeah, of course there are a lot of experts which would tell you that. Yeah, but it looks like if a group of people which are in stochastic programming looks at a problem, the solution method will be stochastic programming. They will never come up with, oh, we checked and we would better ask people from robust optimization. No. Yeah, so there's a high dependency. There's also no systematic approach in the literature, and we cannot compare the evaluations. So our dream or the utopia version would be this one. Yeah, and this is something which people who work maybe in computer science or data structures would say, yeah, of course, why not? Of course it has to be. At the moment it's like that. You have applications, and then you have a certain uncertainty model. You adapt a solution method, and often it's like, if you know stochastic programming, you just check and you just apply that because you know it. What we need is, we need one uncertainty model which fits to the problem at hand, and then we go for the different concepts, and then we can have a standardized comparison. And this is totally missing. Yeah, maybe it's also nearly impossible, but I wanted just to tell you these, and it's quite interesting if you look a little bit closer into that. Okay, and now my idea was that I tell you a little bit about online optimization, because one of the methods which is not so well known for dealing with uncertainty is online optimization, and online optimization is I would say the most natural thing close to human decision making, especially when the time dimension comes in. And let's see, I don't want to do too much, but let's see. Okay. Motivation again, I explained to this already. Yeah, we have we have this forecast-based planning on one side, and on the other side, we have all the current real-time data. And it's always the question, what do we use? Yeah. So we have forecast-based planning, but all modern technology suggests that we should do event-driven planning. In the moment something occurs, we get the data and we do a decision. And all the mathematical programming methods are not really adapted to such a situation. This is why it's important to do a so-called online approach. And I explain you these without too much mathematics. I can give it later, yeah? And one example is like if you have a traveling salesman or vehicle routing, whatever. Yeah. So suppose your requests arrive over time, and just look at a lot of logistic situations. You nearly always have requests coming over time. It's extremely rare that you have all your data and then people say, now sit down and work on it. Yeah. Even if you would redesign your logistics supply chain, now with political changes suddenly happening, maybe you would have to revise your plans. Yeah. Maybe your price evolvement is different. Okay, you see here, in this case, you see we get requests one after the other. And now when we get the request, at what moment should we say, now we solve the problem? And under which objective should we do it? And which method should we use it? Is it good to solve it always exact with partial information? Yeah, this is one also of the biggest problems. If I have information, but I know the information is not complete and will change, should I rely on that information, or should I take into account that for sure there will be some changes? And if we solve partial problems with partial knowledge, how does it relate to the overall solution? And the problem is, currently there's the scientific approach which is called competitiveness analysis, and I can explain it to you like, let's see. So originally online programming comes from, it was like a paging with locality of reference, so it's like you have a computer, you have something in your fast access memory, or you have to write it back to the hard disk or whatever. And then the question is, the next user, is he accessing data which is in the fast memory or in the slow memory? And now you have to decide what data you keep in the fast memory and what in the slow one. And this is one of the most first online problems. Yeah? And the problem is, and maybe I'm looking at something else, this competitiveness ratio says I can give the algorithm any input sequence I want, and I check how good the algorithm evaluates without knowing the future. And of course the trick you can always do is, like this page fault question, you just copy identical data many times, and then you can always fool any algorithm. Because the algorithm doesn't have any knowledge, because it always gets copies. And this is why it says, and look ahead means how much can I see into the future? So how much ahead information do I have? And then the theory tells you, in this page fault, it doesn't matter how much you look in the future, because you can always give a sequence where no information is within the first 100 pieces, and you cannot guess anything. But if you apply these algorithms in practice, it plays a role. And this is now from computer science, but maybe we should have a look at more OR-related problems. Yeah, maybe I should do this. So, suppose you do a routing problem, and your look ahead is only one customer. Suppose you have a pizza service, and you have always one more calling. Yeah? And of course, if you are here, the next one comes, you have to drive there. The next one comes, you drive. Okay? If you have a look ahead of two customers, you see, you can already reduce the tour to half of the length. Yeah, this is what look ahead means. Yeah, you know a little bit the future. You don't know everything. And indeed, we did a lot of numerical tests on that, and you can reduce your tour length. What is probably also interesting, and I'm just mentioning it here because otherwise we are running into overtime, is here we compared a lot of heuristics and optimal resolve. And the interesting thing is that a simple heuristic is often better in such a context than exact resolving with a partial information. So you can really prove, at least theoretically only in certain settings, but empirically or with numerical tests you can prove that in many applications it's not a good idea, if you know you have partial information, to optimize a real proven optimum on this partial information. It's better to have a heuristic which is not perfect, but which is a little bit more flexible. If we would have time, we could have a look at what algorithms are doing in detail. One of the most well-known things is bin packing, which is, by the way, also in healthcare, if you do tactical planning of operating rooms and wherever. And there's also, like you see, just to explain you one of the algorithms here, you see this is the size of the bins you are packing. Maybe it's just one-dimensional size. The bin size is 1. And you have to check how many bins you need. Yeah, it's like at the supermarket cashier, you want to have as least bags as you want. You can easily see that you can always combine the 0.5s and the 0.4 with the 0.6, yeah? So you get easily the optimal solution here with 6 bins, yeah? Then they are full, and then it's clearly optimal. An online algorithm typically is doing something which is called, for example, best fit. So the idea is you have all your bins open, and you always put it into the bag which fills it at most. Okay? So, and this would also be here, like you have the 0.5, now the 0.4 comes, sorry. Yeah, we had a student to animate that, and now we didn't want to do it anymore. Okay, so you see this is how it works. This is the same input sequence I have given you, and you see now you need 8 bins. Yeah, because you don't use the future, yeah? And the interesting thing is, if you have a look ahead, then you can play a little bit with it. You see, we always see now 2 bins. Yeah, you see on the top, this is always the information you have, and this is very close to reality. If you are a logistics planner or whatever, yeah, this is, yeah, and you see, we continue. So continue this, and you see at least we save 1 bin. Yeah, so it pays off. Yeah, also theoretically it doesn't pay off. By the way, yeah. So again, the measure seems to be not the right one, because what you experience is different from what you measure. But this is the same like simplex algorithm, yeah? Worst case behavior exponential, but the average case behavior is so good, yeah? This is why still people use, who would go then to entire point methods, yeah? And this is now, I'm coming a little bit to the point, so for the online algorithm, this is how an offline algorithm, this is what we do all the time, also in all lectures I'm teaching still, at least 80%. You assume you have data, you collect the data, then you run the algorithm and it works, okay? The online algorithm, of course, is different, yeah? The online algorithm always gets data and you have to process it. And this is very typical situation, and if you know you have to do it, you cannot just say we wait until we have all the information, yeah? I don't want to make political arguments now, but if you don't do a decision, you also make a decision, yeah? So it's you cannot escape over time decisions, yeah? And in computer science, it was very much worked on online optimization without look ahead, but in logistics, you typically have a look ahead, and this is maybe the next important message. With barcode scanners, with RFID tags, with whatever, some instruments to know the GPS position of your trucks, you know something. Yeah? You know more. You know the future, and this is a certain future, and this you can use to play with it. And of course, what is interesting is. Yeah, and you see, I was explaining too slow, I know. 5 minutes. Okay, let's see. So what we might have is a request or a time look ahead. A request look ahead would be like in the bins, we know the next 3 bins or the next 3 customers. Time look ahead would be we know the next 10 minutes. Maybe on the conveyor belt, we know the items coming in. And what would be really interesting, and this is a very nice theoretical research question, is there something which goes from offline to online? So do we have some limit results, or some where we approach algorithms? Because the interesting thing is, even if you switch from offline to online, your problem type might change. Yeah, for example, if you, okay, I'm anyhow out of time, so I'll just explain you something. So if you look in a shelf in your inventory, in your storage area, you have some places, and you want to assign optimal locations in your storage area. If you look for a short period of time, this is a simple assignment problem. If you look over a longer period of time, this is a routing problem. Yeah, because the place is used several times. Yeah, so this is a totally different problem, and so it's not so easy, this question, yeah, to answer in many cases, but it's very interesting, because then again the question is, for which time frame do you want to be good? So what do you model? Okay. So I just want to end with an example. So, but the important thing is also, and maybe this is the last theoretical thing I'm trying to show you is, of course you have to formalize all that, and there are a lot of papers of us where you can read it. You have an online problem, you have to look ahead, and now you have to see how you can influence your input data. It's also not enough to know the look ahead, but you have to be able to manipulate. For example, if you know 5 items, then maybe you have to be able to let 3 items wait and process the 5th one, so change the sequence. This is a little bit what you have to do. And if you do all of that, you see, yeah, I'm too slow. This was the theory part to impress you that I can do formulas, sorry. But I wanted to show you, so what we are measuring now is typically what you can do, and this is really nice, is you can have some distribution functions which compare several algorithms. Okay, so what you can see here is, how do you compare to online algorithms? Yeah, this is the same I said before, can you compare things? And suppose we want to minimize some value like root length or so, yeah? And then you have heuristics over different instances. And you see, and this is the best value you get, and this is the worst value you have. And here you now see the distribution functions of the behavior. So both algorithms are not worse than this bound here. So they all get something in between. And now you can ask yourself, what is better? This or this? Yeah? And of course, I would say it's much better to have this red one. Yeah? So, yeah, because you see, it's very reliable. It always gives you values between that range, so it minimizes a little bit more the variance. While the other is like a surprise algorithm. Sometimes you get very good results, sometimes you end up very bad, or whatever. I mean, now you can interpret it. Yeah, but this is much more. And if you look at that, it's also, you can compare, of course, with these here, the look-ahead effect, for example. Yeah, these 2 algorithms you are comparing. Yeah, no, it's and what we can do is, okay, also we can in the distribution function also compare the distribution function of the ratio between the 2 algorithms. And just for the people who work in online, the interesting thing is that this competitiveness ratio, which is always in the literature, where you can get a PhD with, but maybe not the right model for a practical problem, this is always the one here on the top. So where you reach the worst case bound, this is the competitiveness ratio. Okay, and can I have 2 minutes for one example, just for the ones who said, no, but this looks really boring. And I would like to show you maybe one application. And like this. Yeah, because what is really fun is we worked for a large chemical company close to Karlsruhe, and we were supposed to apply these online paradigm. And they have the problem. So I don't know, it's a chemical company, yeah, there are not so many, but it's like 40 kilometers from us. They have one main entrance gate, and their problem is per day they have between 1,800 and 2,300 trucks arriving. And the only question they have is, should I let the truck already in or not? So they get some information from the places where they have to deliver or get material. In chemical industries, mainly bulk transports. And the problem is if they let too many trucks in, you have traffic jams directly. Yes, and also the drivers don't know where to drive, and then they stand and sleep, and then they forget to go there, and people don't know where it is. So the interesting thing was really that we modeled for them these truck arrival at the main gates, and a very simple decision: wait or go in. The interesting thing is we got the real-time data from this company for half a year into the KIT on our server, and we gave them the decision. And the interesting thing is what we could do is we implemented different online algorithms, and here you can see the differences. Yeah, so it's like this was, for example, the driver's choice. Yeah. and here's the savings look ahead. And you can see maybe it's better. Yeah? You see that we get better objective values. I mean, I have no time now to go in detail how we quantified it. Yeah. But we could really show, and the decision makers saw it, it's not a good idea to let the drivers choose, yeah? Yeah, and the things are simple, yeah? And yeah, this is maybe a little bit the end. Now I come to the conclusion. I'm sorry I had to rush a little bit through it. I'm happy to provide the slides. I thought, should I impress you or inform you? So I decided to inform you a little bit about some ideas, and I can give you more formulas if you like. So what I often hear is, this is I hear from companies, and I hate this. Yeah? We use now our methods, big data and AI, and now our supply chain is optimal. And then I ask them always, yeah, for how long? Yeah. If you don't know tomorrow, how do you know what will be optimal? An optimal plan lasts for a prolonged period of time. With time, the world changes, and we don't know how. Yeah, and we should be aware of that. And this is why I wanted also to explain you a little the idea of online optimization. This is really one very nice trick, and we couple it with simulation at the moment, and then use machine learning to calibrate decisions. But I didn't have time, so in part 2 of my talk I will do that. So we have these, and I think this is really important to be aware of these. And also, if you look at that, you directly come to very new models for certain OR problems. And this is the, and I forgot something, my God. Because what I wanted to show you is, because Olivier said it, and I made that slide yesterday evening, because we were talking yesterday evening that we talked about the languages at the local OR societies and how often French and German OR society are doing something together. And we were always planning to have maybe some more French participation. And this year the interesting thing is the OR takes place in my university. And you know, this is Karlsruhe here. And you see, the good thing in Karlsruhe, this is what I say to Germans often, is if you don't like Germany, you are directly in France. But for maybe the good thing is, first of all, the German OR society has like 95% English presentation. I would say 99 now. So it's, I think we have some good invited speakers. You can check on the webpage here. It's from the 6th to 9th September. And what is nice, and I used it to come here also, we have direct TGV connections, so or ICE, it depends on which train is running. So from Paris it's 2 hours and 40 minutes or something like that to Karlsruhe, so it's a nice trip. So maybe you think about checking on the webpage and maybe coming on there. And now this is my best and final slide, and thank you for your attention. Sorry for taking your time. This is to art, bringing an art to an end. So
thank you very much, Stefan. Next time we will ask the organizers to have 2 hours plenary session.
Sorry for taking your time.
Maybe we can just take the time for one question, or if people are interested to talk with Stefan, you can meet later. One question.
So I will be here the whole day, so...
Magic.
Study the effect of considering human factors in this kind of situations where you are not studying over time, but you are waiting for it's even human.
Yeah.
So because one day morning as a planner I have to take decisions for the whole day, but I have to take into consideration stability in my system and the format.
Yeah. I mean the good thing in online optimization is that you can take in all the kinds of effects. So what we do sometimes is also we combine online optimization with simulation models. So in your simulation model you can model a little bit your technical framework, so capacity of machines, maybe even some human behavioral factors. Yeah, people are tired in the morning and whatever. And then the situation is fed into the online algorithm and the decision is made. And then we can also run a whole day and see what the effect would be and maybe correct things. Yeah, I mean, these are a lot of possibilities to go from local decision to very global or long-lasting decision. Maybe it's also not the best, but it's a way which works. Yeah. So.
En français, les sessions parallèles vont malheureusement commencer. Donc, si vous avez des questions, Stefan sera ici toute la journée. Et n'hésitez pas à le rencontrer dans les